Joining me right now is the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So you had dinner with the Attorney General last night.
Right.
We've been told it's weeks, not months, but what is the timing?
So here's the process. He's going through the report to make sure that grand jury information is taken out, because by law it can't be divulged. You'd destroy the grand jury process and violate the law. He's going to go to the intelligence community to make sure there's no sources and methods or classified information that they're worried about. That would be taken out. He's going to talk to prosecutors who have cases associated with all this to make sure it doesn't undercut them. When he does that, which will take some weeks, not months, he'll turn it over to the Senate and the House, and he'll come before the Senate Judiciary Committee and he'll tell us about it.
Are you thinking mid-April?
Sometime in April, probably.
Sometime before May?
Yeah, I think so.
How much of the report are we going to see? 50%? Less?
I don't know how much grand jury material's in there, but Mueller will be the guy to tell us about that. He says, I'm going to go to Mr. Mueller and make sure that anything that's grand jury related is taken out, and he's my guide because he's the one that did the investigation.
Do you get a sense that you're going to be able to see the majority of the report?
I have no idea how much grand jury material's there. I don't know.
You said last night in another interview.
Here's what I do know. You'll get everything that doesn't compromise national security or violate the law.
So on that front, you also you said last night in an interview you spoke to the president.
Yes.
Is he giving you any assurance that he will not be invoking executive privilege?
Right, said just release it.
So there will be no executive privilege is not a question.
As far as I know, that's what they said yesterday.
And do you think the White House is going to see a copy of this before it's released?
I doubt it. I mean, if they're not going to claim executive privilege, and they told me, the president said release it. He reinforced that last night, that, you know, just release it.
That's interesting. Interesting, you said in another interview last night that there are some things in there, in the report, that will be interesting in terms of conversations.
I'm sure there will be.
What does
I don't
that
know
mean?
what's in the report, but, you know, he interviewed people that worked at the White House.
Yeah.
I would imagine. Here's what you can say.
I mean, do you think, yes, you interviewed people who worked at the White House.
Yeah, I imagine they'll have some interesting stories to tell.
Interesting in terms of, that won't look good for the president.
I don't know. Time will tell. But the point is, the people who testified before Mueller must have done it in a credible fashion, in a way that Mueller believed them and did not find a crime. So that's the bottom line.
Did Bill Barr tell you what went into his decision-making process? Well, I guess him and Rosenstein, in terms of not charging the president when it comes to obstruction of justice. I mean, does he say he struggled with the decision?
Well, it's pretty simple. If the guy who looked at it for 2.5 years, spent $25 million, had 40 FBI agents, tells you 3 weeks before he gives it to you, I can't make a decision about obstruction.
He said he wouldn't make a decision.
Yeah, well, I mean, if he can't, wouldn't. I don't know why wouldn't he, but the bottom line is, you know, if I'm a defense attorney and my client's being charged with obstruction of justice, and the guy who actually investigated the case said, hey, I can't decide, it's complicated legally and factually, that's the end of the discussion. How could you in good faith bring a case after Mueller says I can't decide?
Do you think that Barr, in good faith, looked at it, though? I mean, often it's the investigator presents the facts, and then it's up to the prosecutor to decide. He's not the investigator, he's the special prosecutor. His goal was to see if there were any crimes there. DOJ was conflicted. Sessions You think it begins and ends with, there was no decision, you think?
I don't know how in the world could you, as the Attorney General, move forward on a case, you know, we're talking about a criminal matter here, when the guy who investigated it for 2.5 years says it's complicated factually and legally. I don't know how in good faith you could do that. And again, if you're the defense attorney, your first exhibit to defend your client would be the Mueller report.
It's written this way. While this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him.
That's the end of the criminal matter. The goal of a prosecutor is to bring a case or not. And if you can't meet the beyond the reasonable doubt standard, if you're confused about the law and the facts, then you don't bring the case. The goal is not to exonerate people. The goal is to find out whether or not a crime was committed.
And it's also up to Congress then, because Congress is separate from...
See, that's the point here. Barr's job and Mueller's job is to look at criminality.
Right.
Our job is to look at systems, oversight of the executive branch. That's why I'm going to go look at the FISA warrant
I'm going to get to
process.
that in 1 second.
Yeah.
Real quick, on this whole question of exonerate. Giuliani called that last bit, it also does not exonerate him. He calls that last bit a cheap shot. Is that how you see it?
I don't care what you call it. It means to me that, yeah, he didn't say, I find you not guilty. He says, I don't have sufficient, I'm not comfortable with the fact pattern and the law to recommend to you that you should charge the president with obstruction.
Okay, so let's talk about investigations that investigating that you're going to be doing. You're going to be looking at FISA warrant process.
Right.
And quite a bit more.
The counterintelligence investigation.
You tweeted right after the Barr memo came out that it's time for the country to move on. How is it moving on if the Senate Judiciary Committee is looking back?
It's time for us to move on.
Looking at the investigators.
Well, no, it's time for us to move on in terms of Mueller. 2.5 years, $25 million, a bunch of inquiry and look by a really competent guy. The Congress's job to find out, was a FISA warrant issued against an American citizen based on a bunch of garbage? I think everybody should want to know the answer to that. How could it be the dossier was the central reason the warrant was issued? Was it the central reason? How come they would give it to the court if they couldn't verify whether it was legitimate? And did Bruce Orr tell everybody in the FBI, you got to watch out for this Steele guy's got a bias? I want to know all that.
So the president has also indicated that he wants to know about that as well.
Yeah.
I've heard people ask this, and I want you to I want you to respond. That you're now using the Senate Judiciary Committee as an instrument of revenge for the president. Look, what do you say to that?
I say that's stupid. If the shoe were on the other foot, if the Republican Party had hired Steele to investigate Clinton, created a document that was a bunch of garbage against Clinton, they got a warrant against a Clinton advisor, everybody would be up in arms. You know, the media's coverage of Mueller was horrendous. They missed a whole big story about how it got off the rails. I'm going to look and see how it got off the rails. It's not revenge to ask the question, did the Department of Justice...
You don't think Mueller got off the rails. You appreciate what Mueller did.
No, the reason that the reason, no, Mueller did his job fine.
Okay.
How did this whole Russia stuff start? You know, was there a corrupt intent when it came to the counterintelligence? Here's the question. Why did they never go to Trump and say, you may have some people in your campaign working with the Russians, when they went to Dianne Feinstein and say, there's somebody in your office that we think is working with the Chinese?
So if the dossier is garbage. If it is garbage. You've now said that you told John McCain when he received the dossier to give it to the FBI.
Right.
And to investigate. Do you regret making that suggestion now?
Not at all.
Now you're looking into what the FBI did with the dossier?
So in December, somebody gave the dossier to McCain.
Yeah.
He didn't give it to the press. He said, I don't know. What do you think? I said, listen, I don't know if it's true. It could be a bunch of garbage. It could be true. It's not our job to figure that out. Hand it to the FBI. The FBI had the dossier months before, but we didn't know. But what do we know now? We know now that the information in the dossier is unverified to this day.
You surprised a lot of people, though, when you revealed that McCain talked to you about the dossier and that you told him to turn it over. The president has over and over again spread misinformation, at the very least, has lied about that and said that the dossier, and McCain has spread the dossier around, and that is a stain against him and his legacy.
Well, people in the McCain Institute guys shopped it around all over town.
Right,
but
that is not what Donald Trump was saying. You talked to Donald Trump about it. Did you set him straight?
Yeah, well, I know what happened. I know that John McCain acted responsibly. The people around John McCain didn't.
Did you set Trump straight on that?
Well, I told him, yeah. I mean, I don't care. You know, I'm not out to please the president about John McCain. He's my friend, John McCain.
Yeah.
I love the guy to death. He's an American hero. I want to help the president. I like him. John McCain acted responsibly. Did the FBI act responsibly? Did the Department of Justice act responsibly? Did they lie to the FISA court? Did they set up a counterintelligence investigation against the Trump campaign that was a backdoor way to infiltrate the campaign? I don't know the answers to this, but I do know somebody's going to look at it, me included, and I hope some prosecutor looks at whether or not the DOJ and the FBI was corrupt.
Can I ask you about John McCain, though? The president has really relentlessly attacked him for months. You say that you had a conversation with him about it. I want to play you something that Democratic Congressman Hakeem Jeffries said about this, and it was just yesterday. Listen to this.
Well, Lindsey Graham spent years as the sidekick to John McCain. And then Donald Trump gets elected, and Donald Trump continues to bash John McCain in reprehensible ways, and Lindsey Graham on the issue is in the witness protection program.
You want to respond to that?
Yeah, I could give a damn what he thinks about me and John McCain. The bottom line is that my relationship with John McCain was one of the highlights of my time as being in Congress. He was one of my dearest friends. And it's okay for John McCain and Donald Trump to disagree. It's not okay, in my view, for the president to go after John McCain personally. I've said that 1,000 times. But the bottom line here is I'm going to help President Trump. I don't care whether Mr. Jeffries likes it or not. I'll honor my friend until the day I die. But this president feels like people around McCain were out to get him. John McCain wasn't.
But just to square this, I do want, a lot of folks wonder, and I've wondered it too, how do you square this one? John McCain is one of your closest friends in the world.
Well, it's easy.
And Donald Trump has attacked him relentlessly, even in his death.
Well,
how do you work with someone with the capacity to attack someone even in their death?
So there's two sides to this story. President Trump is the president of the United States. I represent the state of South Carolina. They want me to work with this president. I want to have influence with this president because he is president. I think he's doing a damn good job, quite frankly, on national security, on economic policy. I'm going to continue to help him. To all those people who bring up this narrative, you just hate Trump. You don't really care about McCain and me. I know this. This is a game. You're not offended about me and McCain. You're trying to use me to get to Trump. I'm not playing that game. If you think the only way to honor John McCain is to tell this president, I won't work with you, I will never help you, that's your agenda, not mine. My agenda is twofold: to honor my friend for the rest of my life in every way I can and help this president be successful. And I'm not into this idea the only way you can help honor John McCain is to trash out Trump. President Trump has been good to me in the sense he's allowed me in his world. He's made decisions, I think, based on some input I've given him. He's subject to changing his mind. I want him to be successful. I'm the senator from South Carolina, and I'm going to do what the people in South Carolina want me to do, help make this president successful.
One of the things on the table now, once again, is health care. Just
yes.
Really quickly. I'm surprised you sense excitement in your voice about this.
I'm very excited.
The president says you're going to be the party, Republicans are going to be the party of health care.
Yeah.
Do you want to run on health care in 2020? What are you doing? Seriously? You do? Really, Senator?
What do you think? Yes. What do you think? Because Obamacare is failing.
Right, but Graham Cassidy failed as well.
Well, it didn't make it through, but it's a good idea. They want socialism, we want federalism. How do we ignore health care? If you're out there struggling, if you make $50,000 as a couple, you get no Obamacare subsidies and your premiums go through the roof, you're losing your private coverage because companies are dropping coverage. I'd like to have an answer to that. Here's my answer. Take all the money they're spending on Obamacare in Washington and block grants.
You are also an astute politician. You think Republicans running on health care in 2020
100%.
Is not a gift to Democrats?
No, not at all, because if you're in Pennsylvania under the block grant, you get more money. If you're in Wisconsin under the block grant, you get more money. You're giving money to California, New York, Massachusetts, and Maryland under Obamacare.
Are chances any greater than zero that this Congress could come together on a replacement?
You know, I doubt it, but what is the Republican Party for?
What's the Republican Party alternative?
A block grant. To take the money out of Washington, give it to the state to spend on health care, cover pre-existing conditions, flexibility, innovation at the state level. If you don't like what they're doing with your health care at the state, you can vote them out of office under Obamacare. You don't even know who runs Obamacare in your state. You have no say, you have no input. And most states get more money under the block grant versus Obamacare. It's control of health care in your backyard versus Washington. I think that is a good thing to run on.
We will see. Because it is now the next chapter. Senator, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.